Hello and welcome to Wednesday Debate Live with Taghreet Hussein here on Nile TV International. Well, tonight we have a very distinctive guest, my guest of honor for this special edition. Tonight I have with me a very distinctive diplomat. His Excellency is very much admired by the Egyptian people, by all Egyptians. He has lots of friends in Egypt as he assumed office since he was appointed as the South Korean ambassador to Egypt. Lots and lots of fans as well. On Facebook you can follow the Hong Shin Wook Egyptian fans page, which is a very dynamic page, and His Excellency works very hard to further foster Egyptian-Korean relations. And he is in love with the Egyptian civilization, the Egyptian history, culture, and genuinely loves Egypt. That's why he has appointed himself as the Egyptian cultural ambassador to Korea. So allow me to welcome my guest of honor tonight, His Excellency Ambassador Hong Shin Wook, Ambassador of South Korea to Egypt. Your Excellency, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Very kind introduction about myself.
Thank you so much, and we really admire you, Ambassador, and admire all your efforts. And I'm really happy that all the Hong fans are like watching us right now.
I'm overwhelmed by the great hospitality from my Egyptian friends. They're so kind and so welcoming, a stranger like me. So I feel like at home. Yes. Always here in Egypt.
And I hope that you feel at home, Excellency, also at Nile TV International premises for the first exclusive live. We had another one recorded before, but this is our first live together. Thank you so much for the kind acceptance of the invitation. Before we delve further into talking about Egyptian-South Korean relations and the remarkable development that it has witnessed, let's first check the presidential activity for the day. His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council, on Wednesday in Cairo, taking part in a series of discussions on the political front. We will follow more highlights in this report, and we will be back to talk Egyptian-Korean friendship and relations. Stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met the head of Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, on Wednesday in Cairo to take part in a series of discussions on the political front. An official reception ceremony was held for the head of Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council, known as the TSC, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, at El Ittihadiyya Palace, as the national anthems of Sudan and Egypt were played. Session of talks were held between the two leaders, followed by an expanded session that included the delegations of both countries, tackling the depth of the distinguished relations existing between both brotherly countries. They discussed economic relations and the increase of trade exchange in a way that raises the level of the existing momentum in the political relations and the historical ties uniting both peoples. The discussions also tackled maximizing efforts to achieve agricultural integration, the rail and electrical connections between both countries, as well as deepening joint cooperation on the security and military levels in the region, which contributes to achieving the interests of both countries and the two brotherly peoples. The Egyptian side affirmed Egypt's full awareness of the situation that Sudan is currently going through, and the need for joint action so that the current developments in the international arena do not affect efforts to support Sudan to achieve political, security, and economic stability in the country. With Egypt's continuous aid package sent and logistical support, as well as humanitarian assistance to Sudan, in addition to providing technical support to Sudanese cadres and activating all bilateral cooperation programs based on Egypt's unlimited support for Sudan in all fields and at various levels. In this regard, the Sudanese side expressed pride in the governmental rapprochement between Egypt and Sudan, praising the mutual efforts to promote joint cooperation between both countries, as well as the sincere and relentless Egyptian support through various fora to preserve the safety and stability of Sudan, stressing in this regard the existence of broad prospects for developing cooperation between both brotherly countries.
Exceptional ties binding Egypt and South Korea, the strong relations between both countries. The president always affirms Egypt's appreciation of the strong relations with South Korea, calling for activating a comprehensive partnership between the two countries and for the interests of their peoples. And Ambassador, we always say that the sky is the limit for our bond, the Egyptian-South Korean bond and friendship.
Yes, indeed. Well, our bilateral relations is, I would say, growing and evolving even at this moment, and it is really not easy to define our qualitative development of our relation during the time. But I think the most recent milestone was the very successful visit by the Korean president to this great country, and also, I mean, in addition to the very successful one by the Egyptian president, His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Korea in the year 2016.
Yeah.
And, we are witnessing a lot of progress between our two countries.
Yes, definitely both visits were actually turning points in our relations. The presidential visit to Korea back in 2016 and also the latest visit by President Moon.
Right. Especially at the time of Egyptian president visit to Korea in the year 2016, we were able to adopt what we call cooperative, the comprehensive cooperative partnership,
Yeah.
meaning we have to diversify and also enlarge the scope of our bilateral collaboration. So during I think those 6 years, we were able to see a lot of progress, and we have come to have various kinds of new collaboration happening between our two countries. And at the time of my presidential visit, both of our top leaders were able to review the progress so far, and they also agreed to upgrade our bilateral relations to a new level, including very new areas of cooperation, including like renewable energies and desalination, electric cars, and even the defense industry cooperation, and also cultural heritage cooperation. Many new areas were incorporated into the realms of our bilateral cooperation.
Yes. Ambassador, we can find that throughout the year there is always the mutual visits and the mutual exchange going on. Top-notch Korean officials here in Egypt and also Egyptian officials visiting Korea. This sense of dynamism in our relations definitely add lots of depth to our friendship.
Right. Although, my colleagues call me like COVID generations because I arrived here in Cairo only after the outbreak of the pandemic. However, pandemic was not able to prevent both of our countries from expanding our bilateral relation. That is why a series of very high-profile delegations from and to Korea were actually, was maintained during the last 2 years, especially. Of course, first one is the historic visit by my president. It was for the first time in 16 years as the Korean president visiting this great country. And we had also a visit by the Korean Speaker of the Parliament, which was for the first time in 19 years. It was a kind of return visit by my speaker to the one made by the Egyptian speaker in the year 2018. And also another very interesting story is that we had the first visit by the Korean defense minister to Egypt. And that was why we were able to expand our bilateral cooperation into the very new area of military and defense industry cooperation. And vice versa. Many ministers, including your Minister of Military Production, visited Korea, and also the head of the Egyptian Tunnel Authority visited Korea in the year 2020 to pursue like new collaboration in the field of railway and metro trains. So a lot of things are very new are happening between our two nations.
Yes, Your Excellency. Well, this sense of dynamism has been like moving on, and Cairo and Seoul are really busy expanding this sense of partnership. We've seen this on more than one level, and we've seen Your Excellency present in more than one dynamic location in Egypt, the East Port Said Industrial Zone, the Suez Canal Economic Zone, the new administrative capital, all are features of the new republic in Egypt. And definitely we are expecting that the size of South Korean investments in the mega national projects to be increasing.
That's true. We have already like more than 170 Korean companies operating here in Egypt, and they are preparing to invest further into the Egyptian market. And definitely the Suez Canal Economic Zone are one of the candidate, destination for their future investment. Thankfully enough, well, at the time of the president's visit, we were able to sign a lot of memorandum of understanding and contracts, between our two economic entities. And for example, the Portside area, we are planning to establish our joint manufacturing facilities of producing metro trains together here in Egypt.
Excellent.
So we are not producing like made in Korea, we are producing made in Egypt by the collaboration between our two countries. And well, again, we are actually expanding the scope of our cooperation into new areas like desalination and electric vehicle. So all those kind of new investment opportunities should happen in those areas which you mentioned just before. So I have been to the East Port side like several months before, and I was able to witness what's happening there. It's kind of a miracle. We have been witnessing very serious efforts by the Egyptian government and Egyptian people to reform your economy and to actually improve the quality of people's life here in Egypt. And Korea is ready to be a part of such noble process.
Great, Ambassador. And how about the Korean business people? And definitely we do have lots of visits by Korean investors knowing more about the investment climate in the country. What are their impressions, and what are they much more interested in concerning investments in Egypt?
Well, people tell me that I might be less busier than before, since I am done with the historical president visit by my president. However, I'm actually busier than before. You know why? Only for today, I have like more than 3 meetings with Korean business people who are interested in coming to this market, and they have many questions. Since they have been witnessing very, good success stories done by their predecessors, just like the case of Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics. They are producing their products here in Egypt, and not only for the domestic market, but also exporting their products to neighboring countries in this region. So having witnessed such great success stories by the incumbent Korean investors, many new potential Korean investors are coming. That makes us very busy to be ready to answer their questions. And I am explaining about the improvement of the very favorable investment environment happening here in Egypt.
Yes. Ambassador, Egypt and South Korea concluded a memorandum of understanding also concerning the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology and the National Training Academy. And this is actually a very fruitful collaboration. It's a collaboration and an investment for the future.
That's true. We are pursuing like high level of collaboration, including like technology transfer, and definitely research and development is one of the most important key area for our further collaboration in the future. And that is why we are planning to establish a kind of Egyptian version of KAIST, Korean Advanced Institute of high technology. And we hope to be able to establish that version in the new capital. So we will be borrowing the software and hardware that we used to utilize in establishing and operating the KAISPEC in Korea. Definitely we need to learn from each other. Korea as a country who was able to get out of the economic difficulties by investing a huge amount of our capital into the very research and development, and also on the human capacity building.
Yeah.
We are ready to be of any meaningful help to our Egyptian partners.
Yes. To break the serious talk a bit, Ambassador, and taking you from the soft and hardware to the soft power more, and you've entered Egyptians' hearts through this sense of soft power as well, because you are a very distinctive diplomat with also more than one talent, Ambassador. We watched you while playing the saxophone, and that was great. You know, you had many Egyptian fans for the Tell It Da'at style.
I'm being spoiled. That's too much for me. I'm still very amateur in playing my saxophone, but what I wanted to show to my Egyptian friend was that I'd like to show my heart, trying to get closer to my dear Egyptian friends. That's why I began to play the magnificent national anthem of Egypt. That was my first Egyptian song that I practiced for playing by my saxophone. And Untitled Chapter was the second song. I was very poor in playing the music. However, the hospitality from the Egyptian public was enormous. They were so kind enough to embrace my music. And I was able to be invited to a kind of international music festival, hosted by the Egyptian Music Society. And I was lucky enough to be invited by your cultural ministry to play my saxophone in front of many Egyptian public. And also I was able to upload my music at the YouTube, and the response was enormous. And I was lucky enough to have a kind of special fan page for me in the Facebook account. And definitely culture is the very effective medium of communication between peoples. That is why my embassy is putting a lot of capital into what we call public diplomacy, because our intergovernmental relations are already super. But I think in order to make it more sustainable, I think we need to get approval from our people.
Yeah.
That is why I'm expanding the interface between our two peoples.
Yes.
So we want to get more closer to our Egyptian people by way of borrowing, by way of introducing Korean culture to Egyptian people. And on the other hand, I'm also trying to introduce Egyptian culture back to Korea. That's why I appointed myself to be not the Korean ambassador, but the Egyptian ambassador, Egyptian cultural ambassador to Korea.
That's great, and we'll be coming back to this point, His Excellency appointing himself as the Egyptian cultural ambassador to Korea, which is really very meaningful and very genuine and kind on his behalf. Let's watch the talented Excellency Hong playing the saxophone, and we'll be back. Beautiful performance, Excellency, and from playing the saxophone to that decisive moment when you decided, while watching the beautiful Rams Road procession, to appoint yourself as the Egyptian cultural ambassador to Korea. So tell me more about how did the idea come?
Well, that's exactly what I felt on the spot. I was lucky enough to be invited by your government to attend the reopening ceremony of the Sphinx Avenue, Kabash Road.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was feeling I was like standing on a very historic scene in pharaonic times, and I really suddenly totally captivated with the beauty of the Egyptian ancient culture, and on the spot, I decided to appoint myself to be the Egyptian ambassador, a cultural ambassador to Korea. I do want to introduce many, versatile aspects of Egyptian culture back to Korea, grabbing attention from my Korean friends. I'm sure after the pandemic, I'm sure more and more Korean people would like to come here. Before coming here, I just knew that we have Sphinx and pyramids here in Egypt. But after arrival here in Egypt, I came to realize there are huge, amounts of cultural heritage in every aspects of the Egyptian territories, and also I was able to witness the restoration of the Holy Family's track here in Egypt. There are like a considerable portion of Korean population wanting to travel to this country to check the Holy Track. So I have many stories to tell. About Egypt to my Korean friends back in Korea. Since I actually appointed myself to be the Egyptian ambassador to Korea, I'm doing a lot of efforts to introduce Egyptian culture back to Korea.
I'm sure that this is going to be having a great impact also on the flow of the number of tourists, Korean tourists coming to Egypt. And more concerning the love for culture, which is the real bridge of communication. And your latest trip, Ambassador, to Aswan and to Nubia. That was really fascinating. I know that you are in direct contact with Al-Alsun faculty, Ain Shams University, and I have all the honor to be a graduate of Al-Alsun faculty. This is a university or a faculty where you learn languages. The Korean language, we do have lots and lots, thousands of Egyptians who are really wishing to learn the Korean language. Plus that, the ambience, the aura that was present, we have seen Your Excellency dancing to the vibes of the Nubian culture and the Nubian dance in Aswan. How was that? How was that experience?
Well, yes, we are lucky enough to have like two very good Egyptian universities having Korean language department. One is Ain Shams University and the other is
we have here excerpts of the beautiful scene back in Nubia.
In Aswan.
Aswan.
Yes. I was actually trying to have a chance to say hello to the students from the Al-Alsun College of the Aswan University, and in collaboration with the students, I was trying to practice some of the authentic Nubian culture in order to grab the attention from our wonderful people living in Nubian territories. And I think it was very successful. I didn't know that I was to wear the Nubian costume,
we can see it here. You tried it, you made it. Yeah.
Right, on the spot I was advised to wear that costume. I was advised to dance along with the Nubian cultural group of dancers. And it was very unique opportunity, and it was very well received by the
Aswan is amazing, and the people are
there.
Kind-hearted, they are gorgeous people.
Yes.
Gorgeous Egyptians.
And after actually visiting Aswan region, I actually was able to enjoy Nile cruise, and during the time, when I visited the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, I tried to wear the same Nubian costume, and whenever Egyptian people saw me, they tried to call me Mr. Bakar. Mr. Bakar, are you from Nubia?
Very famous.
I was so happy to see the very positive response from the Egyptian public.
Yes, that's really fascinating, and I can imagine the reaction as those beautiful videos would go on your behalf, Excellency, as our cultural ambassador to Korea. So definitely many Koreans would love to enjoy now the Nubian dance and the Nubian culture.
I hope so.
Yeah,
hope so.
definitely. Well, on more than one spot, there is cooperation also between Egypt and South Korea concerning technology, concerning electronics. This is a very important opportunity also to train cadres to enter the market concerning that sense of training the Egyptian cadres on scientific and technology, concerning investing in the people, because as Your Excellency knows that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi invests in the youth and invests in Egyptians.
Right.
So how do you see that?
Well, yes, we are pursuing our collaboration in a more comprehensive way, since we are calling our relation to be comprehensive cooperative partners. That is why we are trying to invent a kind of ecosystem for our strengthening bilateral cooperation. For example, in Benisweb, we have the Samsung Electronics factories there, and right next to it we have what we call Korea-Egypt Technological College, where we have more than several tens of Egyptian young people acquiring the required technology for pursuing sort of state-of-the-art, technological development, and some of them are being recruited by the Samsung Electronics there in the Benisweb, and we are aiming to establish more Korean factories operate in that region, so that we can form a very favorable environment for job creation in the very Benisweb region. Benisweb is one very important hub region in the Upper Egypt. I know, thanks to kind of Egyptian government initiative like Decent Life initiative.
Yeah, very important, noble initiative.
So I'm very ambitious. So not only the Korean factories, but also sort of vocational training center or further high technological college. All those kind of things should be focused in one area, so that we can establish a kind of ecological system for strengthening the bilateral cooperation between our two countries.
That's great,
combining the collaboration both in the academia and also in the industrial sector.
Yes, that would be great, really. And from soft power to also a manifestation of a cheer event that was just yesterday, at Your Excellency's residence. Yes, and that was sharing, we saw it on your fans page, Facebook page, let me tell you about it. Egyptians and Koreans were actually cheering shoulder to shoulder yesterday vigorously. Sad, of course, to say that luck was not on our side, the Pharaoh's side. However, the event was very meaningful in further highlighting that sense of friendship between the two countries, between Egyptians and Koreans. On the Hong Facebook fans page, we found written, "We could win the game, we should have won the game, but I'm still very proud of the Pharaohs and the Egyptian people. You deserve to celebrate yourselves for having done your best." right, Ambassador?
Yes.
Beautiful, ceremony when you watch the matches with Egyptians and Koreans on your side and enjoying together.
Yes, there was very happy moments of cheering together with my Egyptian friends for the very Pharaoh who did their best, but again, lack of luck made us not being able to proceed to the final round of the World Cup. But we really enjoyed.
Here we go.
Yes, that's last night at my residence. I invited many Egyptian friends.
With the two flags. Yeah.
With the two flags, and we had a special logo cheering for the Pharaohs at the game. And frankly speaking, I feel very tired just because I spent sleepless nights. I was so disappointed with the outcome of the game. I know, Pharaohs did their best, and we did our best in cheering for our Pharaohs, but lack of love made all of us disappointed with the outcome. But
next time, definitely.
Inshallah, I'm sure we will win.
Inshallah.
And we will be waiting for you, Egypt, at the final round of the World Cup and the following football games.
Definitely, we're looking for that. Ambassador, more than one interesting story. I'm very much interested concerning Egyptians who are interested to learn the Korean language. And in an earlier interview, Your Excellency said that we need to establish like a new institute that would be for learning the Korean language, underscoring the more than 5,000 people actually in Egypt applying to study the Korean language.
We have a Korean Cultural Center in Cairo, which is the first Korean cultural center in this MENA region. It was established in the year 2014. And in the very Korean Cultural Center, we have a special institute which is devoted to teaching Korean language to Egyptian people. As was nicely mentioned by you, we have more and more Egyptian people wanting to learn Korean language. Of course, back in Korea, we have a greater number of Korean young people who'd like to learn Arabic language in order to communicate more nicely with their Egyptian counterparts.
Yes.
But again, thanks to the popularity coming out of the boom from the K-dramas and K-movies and K-beauties, K-pop music. So yes, that's true. We have more and more people coming to our embassy and our cultural center to learn Korean language, and that is why we decided to provide an online teaching program for those kind of Asian people wanting to learn Korean language. Not only the offline opportunities, we are providing online opportunities in order to accommodate more Egyptian people for their demands for the Korean language.
Yes, that's great. Before leaving, Ambassador, time flies, you know. We've been like almost an hour. But Ramadan is approaching. Happy Ramadan, Ambassador. And I know that last Ramadan was your first Ramadan in Egypt. And you were talking to me before we were on air. You were saying that you did try fasting the first day of last Ramadan.
Only one single day.
One single. How was that?
Yes, I was trying to feel the same as my dear Egyptian friends do during the Ramadan. But it was only one single day, but I came to realize that Egyptian people are trying to feel trying to consider about other people, making use of those kind of fasting opportunities. We have many people surrounding us in needs of basic commodities, and I think all of these people are experiencing those kind of solidarity spirit, spending those kind of very meaningful moments of reflection upon yourself and consideration about other people. It's kind of great opportunity to think about other people surrounding all of us. And I decided to like fast for 2 days this time. This is my
Happy,
second Ramadan.
yeah.
Last year it was first Ramadan, so I fasted only for 1 single day, but this time I will try to fast for 2 days.
Great, Ambassador.
Days.
Happy Ramadan to you and
Ramadan
to all
Kareem.
your loved ones. Ramadan Kareem. Ramadan Kareem, dear viewers. I thank very much His Excellency Ambassador Hong Shin-wook, South Korean Ambassador to Egypt, by his gracious presence and giving us this opportunity and coming to Nile TV premises. Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be with you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And I thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. I'm Taghreed Hussein. Many thanks for watching.